Hey YouTube, this is your girl Chic from Chic Say What. Welcome, Starlights. Welcome to the party. Tonight we are going to get into it. We are going to talk all things Kevin Samuels. I want to say this is probably going to be like my first live really discussing really Kevin like that because I don't really too much talk about Kevin on my channel. But I wanted to talk about him tonight because TMZ have released the information, I guess, pertaining to his cause of death. I suppose the toxicology report came in, and y'all know TMZ is like they be there. They just know everybody business. It's like when you leaving, you going out, TMZ is like right there with you. You are not alone. TMZ is definitely with you. So I want to go ahead and talk about it. As you come in, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. So you know when I go live, because as I say, we real random over here, but one thing's for sure, we definitely get into it. And tonight is going to be no different. We are going to get into it. I want to talk about what came out on the report as being the reason or the cause of his death. I want to discuss also, what was going on with Kevin prior to, I guess, what leading up to his death. Was Kevin really taking care of himself? I didn't regularly tune into his show, but I was very familiar with who he was. And I definitely for sure knew that he was, what do you call that, an avid Red Bull drinker. It's kind of like he could have endorsed them because he stayed with one of those uh on his desk. So I want to see, like, listen, I've never been really wanting to drink energy drinks. It's just not my thing. Energy drink, caffeine, like none of that. I'm just a natural high kind of chick. But I can't help but to wonder if drinking those while having issues, with your body, if that kind of could have contributed to anything as far as with worsening things. So I want to get into it. So again, as you come in, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you know how we do. I'm gonna share my screen, and we're gonna be jumping around. We're gonna be all over the place tonight because there's multiple outlets that have some information that I want to hit on. I even want to talk about the young woman who was uh presumed to be, I guess, it may have been confirmed. She was the last person with him alive, of course, before the medical team arrived to try to save him. Ortencia Alcantara. From my understanding, I think she did an interview maybe with somebody recently. I was saying, or hearing in these streets that allegedly like somebody paid her some money and she sat down with them and spilled the tea or whatever. So I didn't hear it. So if you guys heard it or familiar with it, definitely drop it in the chat and we can definitely get into it and just talk about what it was that she had to say. Because as of right now, I just checked tonight, her Instagram is still set as private, but there's a number of sites, that are out that are still up, that's talking about this young lady. And there's pictures and things like that. So we're going to get into it. Definitely please chime in, speak your piece, the more, the merrier. I just want to hear what your thoughts are about this, because right after he left us, it's like the streets were hot. Like everybody was just talking about him. Like you just couldn't really go on the internet and not hear Kevin Samuels' name come up, whether you were somebody who was in support of him and his message, or if you were somebody that's like, nah, I didn't rock with him. Basically, it's just like it was just a lot of energy from both ways. It was battle. I felt like it was battle of the sexes a lot, where men against women when it came to him. But Kevin definitely had a lot of women supporters. I will say that I did hear a lot of women on their panels supporting him. Like if any of you are familiar with the YouTuber, I am Courtney Michelle. She's someone that I do like. I follow her. She rocked with him pretty hard. Who else rocked with him? Like I said, let me see. Danica, I think Danica, she would sometimes kind of speak on him, so I think Danica kind of rocked with Kevin. I don't know how much she listened to him. That's Danica Marie, another YouTuber out there who creates content that a lot of um, a lot of men, like the message that she delivers. So I noticed that, a lot of like the women out there who delivers a message that men seem to like to hear, a lot of those women are kind of followers of Kevin Samuels. Even I think Chantel Simone, she was a follower of Kevin Samuels. Like she called him the Godfather. Like I know she really like bowed down to that man. So there's a number of women that are out there. So it wasn't just men. He definitely had his women followers. So let's hop on over to TMZ and let's see what they had to say pertaining to the information that they released on today. So we're on TMZ, and the headline reads, Kevin Samuels died from hypertension. So I do know, hypertension is something, that's basically that's high blood pressure, another name for high blood pressure. So, I want to get into, more into hypertension. What are signs of hypertension? Did Kevin Samuels have signs that he had hypertension? What types of medication do you normally take to manage hypertension? All of that. I want to get into it. So let's go ahead and get into this article with TMZ. So this is Kevin Samuels. And the article reads, Kevin Samuels died as a result of hypertension, eliminating any possible suspicion circumstances surrounding the 57-year-old's death. The Fulton County Examiner, the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office just released findings into Samuel's death, telling us he died due to hypertension, high blood pressure. The ME says evidence of hypertension includes a heart whose chambers are thicker than normal. It appears Samuels was also taking a medication called artenolol because the ME notes in their findings that the medication is used to treat hypertension. Samuel's death is classified as due to natural causes. And it also goes on to say TMZ broke the story. Samuels, who was known for his controversial and sometimes not so appropriate dating advice, died back in May. So it looks like here's also the link, looks like from the 911 call. At the time of his death, Samuels was with a mystery woman and collapsed in his home. We obtained 911 call the woman placed, and it was clear she was desperate to help save his life, performing CPR in order to try to help Samuels. Social media buzz at one point thought maybe Kevin's death was suspicious, but according to medical examiner's findings, that just isn't the case. So let's see. Let's click on this fair use because I never really heard the 911 audio. I heard, it was out there, but I don't think I ever heard it. So let's see what it's saying.
Okay, is this a house or an apartment? Oh my God, I fucking know. You don't know if it's a house or an apartment? Oh, it's an apartment. Okay, what's the apartment number? I know. I just need to give him CPR. Just please, just ask for you. You need an ambulance? Yes. Okay. Are you listening? Hold on, ma'am. I have to connect you with the ambulance. It's Kevin fucking Samuel. I understand, but I have to connect you with the ambulance. Are you okay? Yes, ma'am. What's the address of your emergency? Is he awake? No, he has an irregular rhythm. I can feel it. He's breathing in and out, but he has an irregular rhythm. It's probably his heart. So I need you to get here with the fucking. Stop him. Come on, Kevin, you got it. Oh, come on, just try to breathe. Come on, you got it. Come on, think about your mom. Think about your daughter. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to call the front desk to get an AED. He's not going to make it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. But man, I don't want you to disconnect because something can't happen while you disconnect now. Yeah, but I'm saying I need AED. If they have one downstairs, I need to get them up here now. Are you able to your neighbor, ma'am? I hang up with you, or you call them in the front desk and give me a fucking AED right here now. He's turning blue. I cannot wait any longer.
Wow. Yeah, that was intense. I never watched that. Like I said, I heard that was out there, but I wasn't really covering Kevin Samuel's story. So I kind of was like Minnie, just kind of listening to the different various outlets that was just breaking information. So, I mean, going off of that, that 911 call, this woman, it appears that, she tried her best to try to save him and she just couldn't. Yeah, let's see. So this woman, Ortencia Alcantara, who is she? Who's out? Let me see. I'm messing up her name. Let me see. So Ortencia. Let's get to know. Let's figure out who Ortencia is, because that's who we heard on the call, placing the 911 call. So let's see who she is. Let's see. Yeah, let me see. Let's share our screen. Okay, so here's an article. Also, controversial YouTuber Kevin Samuel's cause of death revealed. So this article, it talks about Ortencia. So it says many were suspicious about the cause of death if there were signs of foul play. Yahoo reports the woman he was with was identified in as Ortencia Alcantara in a Thursday, May 5th police report filled out by Officer K. Figueroa of the Atlanta Police Department. Alcantara works as a nurse by occupation and told police she had just met Samuels the night before his death and spent the evening with him. She claims the next morning Samuels complained of chest pains and she attempted to help him. However, Samuels was too weak and collapsed, which prompted her to call 911. As a nurse, Alcantara knew to tell the dispatcher to contact the concierge and get a defibrillator brought to the apartment. She was able to revive him to a responsive state until other medical professionals arrived and took him to Piedmont Hospital. The speculation of wrongdoing became so severe that Alcantara ended up speaking out to defend her name. Quote, "It's crazy how complete strangers try to hurt your character. Believe it or not, there's still good-hearted people in this cruel world," the woman reported to be the last person with Samuels wrote in an Instagram story post. Quote, "Unbelievable to think I have to clear my name for doing the right thing." She continued, "Let me find a lawyer and make these people take all this mess down." So yes, I mean, I will say, remember, as I said, after his death, like the streets were hot. A lot of people just had things to say. They like, yo, who is this woman? Who was he with? Why isn't word that she went to the hospital? Listen, like they really was going in when they learned that this woman did not accompany Kevin to the hospital. Like it was just like, okay, she placed the 911 call. She may or may not have went to the police station, but it was never confirmed that like she was with him at the hospital. So they like, okay, people are saying like he died alone because I think people are saying he wasn't pronounced like dead on site. I think he was like taken to a hospital here in Atlanta. I live locally within the Metro Atlanta area. That's why I say like here in Atlanta. So I'm in Georgia, Metro Atlanta, Georgia. So like a lot of people just had opinions about this woman. And I think, that resulted in, we saw the statement she made. And then as I saw, her Instagram went private. I'm assuming prior to everything, her Instagram was not private. But, after everybody kind of started coming looking for her, she had no other choice but to make it private. So again, people kind of have these mixed feelings about this woman, Ortencia. So let me see. I'm going to switch over because there's another site that got some more information. This one was actually from May 6th, following closer to like, I guess, a day after Kevin left us. So let's see what they were saying back then, right when it first happened. So this is from sandrarose.com. So the article reads, "Who is Ortencia Alcantara?" So let's go on. It says more details have emerged about Kevin Samuels' ultimate death at the age of 56. According to a police report obtained by Philip Lewis, senior editor of the HuffPost, Samuels suffered a post-coital cardiac arrest in his Atlanta apartment. According to the police report, a nurse named Ortencia Alcantara called 911 to report, quote, a person injured on Thursday morning. Medics arrived to the residence, Buckhead, Atlanta apartments to find an unresponsive man, later identified as Samuels. So here is a tweet posted by Philip Lewis. It says more details on Kevin Samuels per Atlanta police. A woman met Samuels and spent the night with him. She ID'd him as Kevin Samuels. Samuels complained of chest pain, fell on top of her, and she called 911. Officials performed CPR. He was unresponsive. So let's see. I just clicked to wanted to see if we could see more in this picture right here. So it looks like this is like showing the address of Kevin's home. Let's see what some of these tweets are saying. Somebody's saying it's true. A strange woman was with him when he suddenly and mysteriously died. A strange woman in a medical field watched him die. A strange woman. Anyone else see anything strange about this? Y'all, I told you people kind of had mixed feelings about this. Somebody says, just listen. Just take the time to listen. Kevin Samuels want Black people to win. R.I.P. Kevin Samuels. Somebody says, some of you need to Google what her childhood was like. I'm glad she's here with us, enjoying the rain. I want to love everything as much as Drew Barrymore loves everything. Perfection. What else? I think that's it. I don't think that's talking about Kevin anymore. So yeah. That's that. Let's see what else it says. It says that Hortensia or Alcantara, she's 32. Yeah. So it just kind of goes into what we saw, or what we heard on the 911 call. And like I said, it didn't work out. So it's on record that she attempted to help him or save him, but it just did not work out. But I want to jump over to Lipstick Alley, because this will also give us kind of some idea too with how people are feeling just pertaining. You remember I said people are kind of divided. So we're over here on Lipstick Alley, and let's get into, how are people feeling about this information that has come out. So somebody says, this is today current. These are current comments we're about to get into. Why would he drink all those Red Bulls when he knew he had high blood pressure? So that, when that somebody posed that question, and like I said, anybody who was familiar with Kevin Samuels, like if you even like seen a couple of his videos, you knew like Red Bull was just like something he always had. Like that was his drink, his beverage. So I took it upon myself to go and just try to research, hypertension and like cause, and like, cause I'm not really familiar a lot with it. It's nothing that, I suffer from or anyone close to me suffer from, but I wanted to learn about like hypertension and energy drinks, like the whole connection. Like, is that what we trying to do? Is that what we want to do? If we know we over here with high blood pressure, are we trying to indulge in energy drinks? Like that's the question. So I want to check it, look into that and get into that too. But before I hop over there, let's get into these comments some more. Somebody said this is a perfect example of skinny people talking ish about fat people and dying before them. Mind your business and make sure your issues straight before worrying about other people's health. Now, this comment, if you're familiar with Kevin showed a lot of presumed concern about Black women, and no pun intended, a heavy focus was Black women's weight. He talked about Black women's weight a lot. Like on his listen, what's your dress size? He want to know what your dress size, what's your height. He trying to look at the measurements. And based on, your answer to those questions, he would basically tell you his thoughts and opinions on the likelihood of you getting that man that you talking about you want, if he's going to be anything close to high value. So that's why this person's like, yo, he was skinny and had issues. So basically you still got these quote unquote fat women still out here outliving him, and he was skinny and had issues. So you really can't, I guess, go off of someone's physical appearance to tell really what their health is like. And also this message is saying we shouldn't spend so much time being worried about the next. We need to kind of make sure that we good and our home is good. So I do understand that comment. This somebody else also said, I wonder what his followers had to say. I wonder what his followers had so much to say about big girls have to say about this. This man was throwing back Red Bull like it was water, knowing he had a high blood pressure, but I guess it didn't count because they were too busy worrying about Big Shirley. And this is exactly why I will say until my last breath that the vast majority doesn't truly care about health when it comes to fat people. You care about thighs rubbing together. That's it. It just makes them feel better to get on a fake pedestal of superiority. So what I'm taking out of this comment is they're saying, listen, when people talk about fat people, it don't be really about them talking about a fat person because of the health aspect. It's more so about, I guess, the aesthetics, because you have someone who's not fat, like Kevin Samuels, who wasn't in the best of health. So that's what I took out of that comment. Someone also said he was over here talking about fat people, this, fat people, that, and this man died from hypertension, a known condition that is exacerbated by obesity and excess weight. The jokes write themselves. So they're like, okay, you over here worried about somebody being overweight, and then one day, having hypertension, high blood pressure, and that's your situation over here at this high rise in Buckhead. Like, so that's what I took out of that, y'all. Again, I'm just reading the comments and interpreting how, how I interpret them. And you too can do the same. Someone said the nerve of this man to trash the Big Shirleys and Black women about our health, saying we are the most out of shape women in America and we just love to just lay up and eat Popeyes and Big Mama's biscuits. And he had health conditions his damn self. High blood pressure. Instead of preaching to others about their health, pray to God and ask him to heal you. I'm disgusted because he used to wear big girls out. You can't make this ish up. Yeah, I mean, he went hard on the big girls, what he would call them, Big Shirleys. He did go hard on them. He went hard on them. So as we saw in the TMZ report, there was a medication that he was taking. So therefore, that lets us know he was very aware of his condition. It wasn't like he was walking around not aware that he had issues with his blood pressure. Let's jump over to this article I found pertaining to high blood pressure and energy drinks, because I just want to know, like, okay, what kind of impact could those energy drinks had on him, with him having high blood pressure? Like, was that the move? Clearly we know it wasn't, but let's get into the scientific reason as to why it wasn't the move. So this article under WKU News, it reads, energy drinks can cause high blood pressure and fatal heart problems. So initially when I was searching and, doing my research for this live, my question was, okay, what causes hypertension. Like, what's the cause? So then I'm like, okay, let's flip it up. Hypertension, energy drinks, correlation, so this is how I landed here. So let's get into what this article is saying about energy drinks and the cause of in high blood pressure. Basically, how you basically they don't do well together. So it goes on to say, energy drinks may cause high blood pressure and potentially lethal heart problems, new research has found. So this article is dated July 9, 2013. So it's almost 10 years out, but it's very likely that this medical information still applies. So we're going to continue to get into this article. So it says doctors are warning people with high blood pressure to use caution and judgment before downing the drinks after finding they may increase blood pressure and disturbs the heart's natural rhythm. American researchers analyzed data from 7 previously published studies to determine how consuming energy drinks might impact heart health. The pooled studies included health patients ages 18 to 45. So 10 years ago, Kevin would have been like within that age pool when he left us. He was definitely well into his 50s. So looks like this information would apply for back then, his age pool, if he was experiencing heart problems or, throwing back those energy drinks like that. Also, this all brings me to the question of, a lot of times when people are driven to do better, when they have identified a reason to do better for or a reason to live. Like, for example, a lot of times your loved ones is your inspiration. So as we heard in the 911 call, like Ortencia was like, hey, think about your daughter, think about your mom. So as we're reading this and, we're learning about, the energy drinks and how they aren't the best for, first of all, they're just not the healthiest. And then if you already got heart issues, you dang sure need to stay away from him. Do you think that is likely that his medical provider, or his doctor, his physicians, they were aware that he was drinking energy drinks? Because I said, dude was throwing them back. Do you think that they knew this and they discouraged him from this? Also, a lot of times when you have certain conditions, y'all know they send you home with little inserts and paperwork that says, hey, these are the do's and the don'ts. So do you think it was a good chance that even information that they even gave him about his condition to kind of become more familiar with, if energy drinks was listed on there as something to stay away from? That part, I find it hard to believe that this man, because we all know Kevin was not an idiot. You're not an idiot and having as many followers as you had. I'm just saying, I'm gonna give him that, even though I wasn't a supporter per se of his. Like, the man was not an idiot. So we're gonna go with, he knew that energy drinks was not what he needed to be consuming given his condition. Now it just has me to wonder, why would he still continue to do it knowing that? Goes back to, was this man really as happy as he came off to be, or as he tried to make it seem? Were we dealing with a happy man? A lot of times, we may presume somebody's happy because they're quote unquote successful. They have a lot of following, but we all know, we heard a lot of times, especially with the rich, the famous, they be some of the most miserable people. Like, and that's why I don't like that whole, like when they say, oh, goals, relationship goals, this goes, that goes, because you really don't know what was going on with somebody. Like, you really don't know. All we knew is this man, a couple of days a week, sat at a desk, wore a nice suit, and just went in on the state of Black relationships and why he felt like Black women collectively were quote unquote losing. Like, he just sat there and just gave his honest opinion. Either you were here for it or you weren't. I personally didn't go over there just because I wasn't here for, I didn't like his delivery. I just found him to be rude and obnoxious. Like what they say, it's not what you say, how you say it. And I just wasn't rocking with the how you say it part. But I have told many of people, like, there was quite a bit of things that he would say that I did agree with. But Back in 2020, the way he operated, moved, I wasn't with it. I don't know before his demise if he switched gears, but back then I didn't like how he would talk to the women callers, when they showed a difference of opinion. So again, back to, was this a happy man? Did he feel like he had a reason to live? Because if you did, I don't see why you be throwing back these Red Bulls in the manner in which you was. And we were able to just see on camera that he was doing it a lot. It wasn't like, oh, once a month we seen it sitting with him on camera. It was right there with him every time. Just like you seen him constantly in the suit, you seen him constantly with that Red Bull. So let's get back into this, the article about the, hypertension, because I just can't ignore that. This is, to me, this is just showing, given that this was a man that just was like, whatever, I don't care. I was hearing, even when he was still alive, that his relationship with his daughter wasn't the best. So it's just like, and he, from my understanding, he just had one daughter who was grown she was grown at the time, and it wasn't the best. So, okay. And then we did know he wasn't married. He said he was divorced. I think he was divorced, twice, 2-time divorcee. So, okay. Well, what else did the man have to live for? Okay. So he had a job. He had work. We did see him. He was a hardworking man. He worked a lot. Okay. Okay. What we got after that, y'all? What we got after that? Because a lot of times I've heard someone say, I was listening to an interview, and it was like it was someone, they were talking, I think they were like a medical professional or something. And they were like, the older people get, the more they start to put more value on family. And it's not really about more of your accomplishments, or your money or resources. It's about family, and looking to your left and looking to your right and seeing who you have with you. And as we all seen with Kevin, when Kevin looked to the left, to the right, who did we see that he would have had? We seen that he had his, with the manosphere, his YouTube friends. But as we seen from that live, from whatever, his funeral, I only seen Anton Davis there, who's a YouTuber. I seen him. I seen, listen, out of the manosphere, that's it. But you had all these people that was hollering, they rode for Kevin, but did they really ride for him? Were they really his friends, or were they just, it's like, do people get it mixed up? The YouTube world, do they kind of get it mixed up with reality and the YouTube world? Are you really running around considering these people on YouTube your friends? These people that you ain't never even, most people haven't even crossed paths with the other fellow YouTubers. It's just like, that's all we seen that he had around him. Period. But let me get back into this article. So it says, in the first part of the pooled analysis, the researchers examined the QT interval, a segment of the heart's rhythm, of 93 people who had just consumed 1 or 3 cans of energy drinks. They found that the QT interval was 10 milliseconds longer for those who had consumed the energy drinks. The QT interval describes a segment of the heart's rhythm on an electrocardiogram. When prolonged, it can cause serious irregular heartbeats or sudden cardiac death. Lead author Dr. Saishan Shaw, assistant professor at the University of the Pacific United States, said doctors are generally concerned if patients experience an additional 30 milliseconds in their QT interval from baseline. QT prolongations is associated with life-threatening arrhythmias. The finding that energy drinks could prolong the QT in light of the reports of sudden cardiac death warrants further investigation. The researchers also found that the systolic blood pressure, the top number in the blood pressure reading, increased an average of 3.5 points in a pool of 132 participants. So they this study is showing these energy drinks, it really affects the heart, and it's not the move. It's not the move. Dr. Shaw added the correlation between energy drinks and increased systolic blood pressure is convincing and concerning, and more studies are needed to assess the impact of the heart rhythm. Patients with high blood pressures or long QT syndrome should cause should use caution and judgment before consuming an energy drink. Since energy drinks also contain caffeine, people who do not normally drink much caffeine might have an exaggerated increase in blood pressure. People with health concerns or those who are older might have more heart-related side effects from energy drinks. The findings were presented at the American Heart Association epidemiology and prevention conference. So Kevin was a middle-aged man. He was in his 50s, so you would consider that to be older. So there's that. I don't know if he drank coffee. So I know just myself, I don't drink coffee. So if they basically, according to this report of sis, if I start consuming energy drinks, I'm not used to all that caffeine. It would, take a faster, it would, hit me harder than maybe somebody who's used to consuming something like that. But like I said, it wasn't the move. And you cannot convince me that this man was not aware of that. Basically, we're dealing with somebody who was like, I guess it's kind of in those lines of you have those people who smoke, and they're like, they know the effects of it, and it's just like, oh, well, I'm going to do it anyway because you become addicted. And it seems like that's what we were dealing with. He had an addiction. He was addicted to those energy drinks. I mean, what else do you call it if somebody's not willing to put something down even to save their life? Like, that's an addiction. Because typically, addiction, you're doing something even though it's like when you don't have self-control to stop. So this man, in my opinion, had a whole addiction to energy drinks, in particular Red Bull, because that was his energy drink of choice. And then who knows, with when you have alcohol mixed, like, listen, you got all other kind of stuff, no telling what he had going on in his life that he may consume. And on top of that, it was just a recipe for disaster. So, the whole situation is very unfortunate. I'm going to drop, like I normally do, drop the links in the description so you can read for yourself. But the moral of the story is we have to take care of ourselves. We can't just go off of, okay, you look in the mirror and you feel like you look good. No, it don't stop there. We still have to explore what's going on internally, and that comes into play when we have our annual checkups, just like many of us do it for our children. We ourselves need to do it. As adults, we need to do it as well. And then we all know, like, men typically, they don't really be on top of that stuff like women do. So who knows, how much or how frequently Kevin was going to the doctor, having his checkups and all of that. Like, was he, because, did he have anybody in his life? Because a lot of times a man, if he has a solid woman in his life, she's there in his life to kind of stay on him with making sure he take care of himself, things like that. So again, it goes back to the message also that Kevin would deliver as far as with women and you needing a man and this, that, and the third. Okay, well, there was a study, and I might be able to show it on here too, where I had researched, it was about a year or more ago, that men life expectancies become shorter when they're alone. So like, take a man that was married, when he becomes divorced and he's suddenly alone, his life expectancy becomes shorter. However, on the flip side, for a woman, when she's married, her life expectancy is shorter than it is versus when she's alive. So I found it to be interesting because, to me, in the way in my mind I rationalize it, that man's life expectancy is longer when that woman's around because she's the one that's making sure that he's good. Like, yo, babe, you go to the doctor, you need to go get this checked out. Stop playing. We going together. I made that appointment yesterday. You need to be there tomorrow. It's at 2:00. All of that. So when they no longer have that, then it's like they start kind of letting themselves go. So there goes that, decline in that shortened life expectancy. Whereas a woman, listen, a lot of women, we say, listen, we got a man, you factor like you got a whole nother kid around, because just like you're having to still be thinking for him and do a lot of things that you do for the children in the house, as far as like when making appointments, making sure that, they underwear clean, socks clean, like those little things, making sure that they're on top of, like, you're doing those things as you would your children. That's stress. That is stress. So when you no longer have that man in your life to be doing that for, and now you just think you just got yourself to care for, listen, that's like a burden released from you. So then I can see why then suddenly why sis now she doing better. Her life, she living better, quality of life as far as from a health standpoint, because she don't have that other person to have to be concerned about. Because of course, your kids are grown, so they going about their business. And now you no longer have that man there to be worried about if he doing what he's supposed to do while you over here doing what you're supposed to do. So it makes sense on that side as to, well, why is she living longer? Why is she living her best life? So going back to Kevin Samuel's life, Kevin didn't have, from what we knew, a woman in his life, like a solid woman that was there to be like, hey babe, like did you good, did you go do what you needed to do, you've been working a lot, you need to take a break. Like, he didn't have that. He just threw himself into work, and while he was working, he was throwing back the Red Bulls. Then the report talked about some type of medication that he was on. So he was taking medication, but taking the medication and throwing back the Red Bulls is almost like they counteracting, each other. So he didn't have anybody in his life to hold him accountable, to make sure like, yo, you good, you taking care of yourself, you doing what you're supposed to do. So as he focused on the women and saying, hey, y'all women, y'all black women, you need to get together because you need a man, you gonna need somebody who gonna, help take care of you, this, that, and the third. Like, he needed somebody too, but his need just so happened didn't come from the financial aspect. And I think when it came to the women, the talk was heavily on, like, when men talk about women and their need for a man, it's about resources, money, things like that. But with men, it's like men need women too. It's just for a different reason. They need men, they need women, hell, just to live. They need them to live. They need them just to be there to check in on them, to make sure that they good and they're doing what they're supposed to do. So, they're both equally important, men and women. And I say that, and I always say that, for as a married woman of almost 18 years, like, men and women need each other. We need each other. Women need the man around as far as to be a protector, provider, all of that. Even if you do got your own, there's just still, you still just need that strength, that energy, that protection that a man brings. The safety, the comfort, like, you just need all of that you just typically not want to just get from your sister. You know what I'm saying? And men, you need your woman. You need that touch, those things, those that you're not getting from your boy, from the manosphere. The manosphere ain't checking in. Hey man, you make your doctor's appointment. You go to they ain't doing all that, because they're busy focused on trying to get the bag and make the money like you are. So y'all ain't having that kind of conversation to make sure that you good in that, in that area. They might ask, hey, you good? And your response is, yeah, I'm good, because you based it off of hell, you still kicking and breathing in that moment. But in actuality, you really not. But y'all not really getting into that with one another. So I think, the conversation when Kevin was here, there was room to, to talk about men and how a woman can be beneficial for them other than just pleasure. There was definitely room to have that discussion. And that's not a discussion that I, because I'm, my ears to the streets, to the YouTube streets, and that's just not even anything I hear many of the men talk about. It's when they talk about women and their quote unquote need for women, to me, it's like it's limited to just the gratification. Like, I haven't really heard them touch on this point that I'm making about just somebody who's there to make sure you good, make sure that you healthy, that you on path to live another day, to be around for a long time. Like, I don't hear them talking like that. And to me, that needs to be the conversation. And hopefully after, the reveal with this report and the learning of the cause of his death, there will be more men talking like that, talking about the importance of taking care of yourself and not just going off, okay, you got to, he looking clean, he got a nice suit on. Like, that don't mean that man was taking care of himself. Like that just mean that he had money. Having money and being in good health, that ain't got nothing to do with the other. One does not have anything to do with the other. And we see that. Like, this is evident that that's the case. So we got to really refocus and really focus on what's really important, because a lot of this bickering, between man and woman, like a lot of this stuff isn't important. I think it's just a lot of frivolous, conversations that's been had, um, by men and women. And it's just like, I feel like for a while it's been about the battle of the sexes, they're not getting along with one another. But to me, it's just like, what's really important? And I think Kevin's demise and him leaving us, that could be a bridge to maybe just bringing people together to have the conversation about how we really do need each other as much as we say we don't. Like, Kevin's death shows that the devil's a lie. Like, yes, we do. Men, you do need women. Then, the conversation came up with, if Kevin, the question came about, okay, if Kevin was with a black woman, would that black woman have, quote unquote, let him leave alone? Would she have rode in the ambulance, went to the hospital with him, been by his side until a loved one got there? Like, that's a whole thing. Like, people really were like, yo, like, okay, why y'all pushing being with the exoticals, being with the non-black girls? Like, do the non-black women hold you down like that? Like, are they really holding you down? Like, really, like, when you really think about it, are they really holding you down? They might be, something to look at. They waistline might be smaller, but are they genuinely holding you down like like a black woman can, or like the black women maybe in your life has? So again, it's about, getting our priorities in order, because right now, I think as a collective in our community, they're all out of whack. I think our priorities are all out of whack. And that's why, these people on the, right now I got up on Lipstick Alley. That's kind of what I'm reading with a lot of these comments, where people are like, the focus was on the wrong things when he was here. He had this large platform, which means he had the ear of 1 million+ people. And the conversation was about physical appearance versus the substance, those things that I'm hitting on tonight. Like, that wasn't what the conversation was really about. And if the conversation was about that, would it have made a difference? Would he still even be here with us if it was about that? If it was about, like, y'all, like, we need to really take care of each other. And, our being the best version of ourselves is not necessarily just about looking snatched. It's about, okay, your inside, are you taking care of, what's going on with you? And, to me, it's coming out to where Kevin wasn't living what they say, practice what you preach. That he wasn't doing that. He wasn't doing that. Like, he wasn't practicing what he preached. Like, he wasn't. I mean, it's sad he wasn't. What is this? Let's get back into these comments. Somebody says, so all the time he was talking about black women and our health, and he had chronic hypertension. Wow, ain't that something? I bet you, like, a lot of the women that maybe that called in on his show and who hung up feeling less than, I bet you a lot of them didn't have hypertension. The whole KS situation was something else, so absurd, like a comedy sketch. Somebody says, I still think he was dabbling in that booger sugar. Somebody said, well, somebody says, what do you expect when you sit up and argue all day? That's why I try to tell fonts on here to calm their ads down. All that fussing is bad for the heart. Yeah. Someone says, I said it over and over. Nothing about him was high value. Just look at him. His skin teeth told me he did not do much self-care. Listen, and I didn't even watch the man, pay attention to the man like that to pick up these things. Maybe you guys did. You can kind of weigh in on that part. But like I said, he wasn't showing that he was taking care of himself. And I think largely it had to do, it speaks to how he felt about himself. If he felt like if it was worth it, if his mind was like, well, what am I doing all these other extra things for? It ain't nobody here. I'm by myself. I'm in this world. I'm moving alone. Like, to me, this man moved like he was just going through life alone. He moved to me like he wasn't a happy man. I didn't look at Kevin and just seeing happiness. I looked at him and just seeing success, but I didn't like see happiness like somebody who was genuinely content with their life and their accomplishments. I didn't see that at all. There were other, even like a part of the manosphere, other YouTubers who had a way smaller following than him. But when they spoke, to me, I picked up that there was things in their life that they had gratitude for. They spoke on having partners. It's like they had life within them. I didn't really pick that up with Kevin. It was more of like, I don't know if misery is the word, but it just wasn't, he didn't reek of happiness. He didn't. I'm sorry. Like, y'all can let me know it, but to me, he didn't reek of happiness. And that's just not the energy of the feel that I got from him. Because there's other men out here, who say similar things to Kevin, but still you see, in their life, they just seem to be fulfilled. They seem to have more to be happy about than their work. There were other things in life. And as I said, I once heard a person say, listen, as we get older, those materialistic things, those things will start to go down on the list, and the loved ones, family, those things will start to kind of take more priority, and you start to kind of want to have family around you. Like, those become the important things, not the other things that you maybe worked hard for. It's just like, it's about being around your family, and Kevin didn't have that. He didn't have that, and it's very sad. It's very unfortunate. you know Somebody says, of course he would die from hypertension because his hate for Black women caught up with him. When you have hate in your heart, it becomes a physical manifestation. It can kill you. Oh, well, like, that's a real thing. Like, you got to be careful with how you treat people, the energy. Like, I'm big on energy. Kevin didn't, to me, he didn't have positive energy. That's what I'm talking about. Positive energy. He didn't. To me, his message was more so focused on the divide and pointing out, okay, quote unquote, Big Shirley, this is why you're not going to be over here with David, the 6-figure man, versus a conversation being had about how to bring the two together and how they can be beneficial to one another. And still, while maybe focusing on, hey, as a community fan, we all need to focus on, we need to take care of ourselves. Like, that just could have been a whole message, because we all know just within our Black community, we have a lot of like health problems, and they're largely associated because of our weight. But it just seems like when the discussion is had about our weight, to me, it seemed like it's more, when it's coming from men, it's more so focused because of only for the aesthetic purposes, not really the health part. Like, it's more so because of, okay, well, how you look. So, woman, she and her feelings, she can caught all kinds of attitude because they're picking up that it's really not, the conversation isn't really about, oh, okay, because I want you to live. That's not the conversation. It's just like, it's more of like, okay, you're not good enough. And because you're in a size 16, that's why you're not good enough. Like, it's sad. I just think we're very divided, Black men, Black women, we're very divided. It's very disheartening. And then I just choose to not be a platform to where I kind of aid in that with showing the divide or keeping a divide. There's certain topics that'll come about, and I'll just kind of touch on it to point out how we're divided. But I'm all about solutions. So on here, I talk about, okay, why we're divided, how we cannot be divided. And I just think that if we spent more time on, that, we would just be better as people. But I also understand from a content perspective, that's probably not going to bring you numbers, when you talking about keeping the peace, because people get off on drama and things. And I recognize it. I know the formula um, for success. And just like they say, there's content out there with Kevin Samuels years ago when he used to heavily talk to men and talk about them and how they need to up their game. And he made a comment of saying, hey, I can switch over and talk about women, basically make a killing. And eventually down the line, some years down the line, I don't know how many years later, that's what he did. And he's seen a big change in his success by him jumping over, hopping over. So, it's just about, if you're willing to compromise yourself, what you're willing to do for a dollar for success. So, with me, my focus, I'd rather, try to kind of have my message on how to, have us kind of come together versus aid and keeping us divided and speaking negatively about my sisters or about my brothers. I'm married to a Black man. So I'm not going to be over here bashing, have Black men in my family, a brother. I'm not going to be over here bashing Black men, period. I'm just not. But I'm also not going to be over here bashing Black women as well, because I'm a Black woman. I have a mother, sisters, nieces. What's the point? I'd rather just focus on, hey, how we can get it together. Listen, let's get it together. So KS, may you rest in peace. I hope, the people, anyone who watches this live, gets something up out of it. We just really just have to kind of love on one another and not be about tearing one another down. What's the point? What's the point? Kevin spent a couple of years, his success. I found him in 2020. He had about 20,000 subscribers when I came across him. And I listened to maybe possibly 3 of his lives. And then after that, I was like, okay, yeah, I can't do it. And just never looked back and never listened to another one of his lives. I've never even listened to the average at best video that went viral. I just don't rock with him. And based off of how he was living in his last days and last couple of years, it's given a lot of people to feel, to say what they said as far as about, with karma and his energy not being good, which is why they believe he was removed from this earth, because he wasn't spreading good vibes, doing good for our people as a collective. So, people had their difference of opinion when it comes to that. Like I said, I didn't rock with the man, but I've never done videos, talking about him either. So I think this probably is my first time really talking about him. So I just wanted to bring light to, Kevin, his life, his death, talk about, how we can do better as a people, as a community, so we can learn from this man, to not let his death go in vain, because sometimes what they say, we're put here for a reason. And Kevin could have been here for the reason of teaching us, when I say us as Black people, the importance of supporting one another, caring about one another, doing check-ins on one another, going to the doctor, taking care of ourselves, all of that. Kevin could have been here for that, to do that, to help us, to remind us the importance of life, what life is all about. And basically the moral of the story is life is about how we make one another feel, how we treat one another. Is not so much about really your tangibles. It's just, it's the energy that we put out here. So, those are my 2 cents pertaining to Kevin Samuels, his situation, his cause of death. And I said what I said. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. Because as I say, we real random over here, but we definitely get into it. We get into all things celebrity, viral moments, just anything that I feel that the people need to know, the people may want to hear. I will be dropping the links in the descriptions if you want to check out any of the things, the material that I went over to tonight in this live. Yeah. So RIP KS, and I will catch you on the next broadcast. Peace.